Hey, I'm Jordan. Welcome back to my channel. I'm doing things a little bit differently today. I'm on my way to a hike, and I really wanted to talk more about masculinity and building on my video that I put out last week about masculine and feminine archetypes and embracing them as a whole. So I just had this intuitive feeling to turn on my camera and just really flow into it a little bit more podcasty style. So here we go. Hey, for those of you that don't know, I'm Jordan. I help people expand their minds, get in touch with themselves, their sense of self-care, spirituality, and health, mind, body, soul. What is a man? What is a man anymore? I don't know. This is something that's ate at me for years. I've come to learn that it's my life's work. But when I was a kid, I didn't look at it that way. When I was a kid growing up in central Alberta, we kind of thought that we had one choice, and we thought that choice was, which trade are you gonna do? Not what are you gonna do? And this is really because Alberta is such a oil-rich province, and a province that was really built on the construction industries and trades, blue-collar culture. And not that that's a bad thing. Those are great things. We need that. We need the trades, or else we wouldn't have heat and buildings and homes. But what didn't resonate with me was this idea of such tough ruggedness that we couldn't give men permission to be soft. We couldn't. You know, I heard it all growing up. I heard, straighten up, little soldier, stiffen up that upper lip, don't cry, men don't cry, boys don't cry. When you hurt yourself, when we hurt ourselves, our parents would tell us, oh, don't cry. Why not? Why? Your child hurt themselves. Soothe them, comfort them, hold them until they're done crying. But heaven forbid we let our children cry. Heaven forbid we let our boys cry. This is what I don't understand about masculinity as a whole, is why must we drill it into our boys that they can't cry, they can't express emotion, they can't do any of these things that are innately human, that are about feeling, and they're about expressing ourselves and understanding that if we hold in our emotions and if we bottle ourselves, then we'll blow up. We'll have poor mental health. We'll turn into angry boys. And then they say, oh, boys will be boys. But why? Why? I don't understand. I do understand. I understand how it happened. The patriarchy and the way that civilization went from white colonizing, seeing matriarchal societies and fighting them. You look at it, Egypt and North American indigenous societies and those societies that used to really respect the feminine in their community, and they respected them so much and they revered them that when boys were soft, they allowed it. They allowed boys to experience those sides of themselves to their fullest extent. And you know, in indigenous cultures, you even have things like recognized two-spirit people who are an embodiment of masculine, feminine. If that's not beautiful, I don't know what is. But in the West, we have this thing that in modern day, because of this patriarchal overtaking, we've lost this sense of knowing that Baloo, come on. Sorry, it's just my dog. He's right there. He's just anxious to go on this hike. We've lost this sense of understanding and respecting the masculine and the feminine together. The divine feminine and masculine. Not the way that I saw when I was growing up over on TV. When I was growing up, I was a 90s kid, and it was still really prevalent back in the 90s for a lot of sexist and misogynist culture on TV. You still had a lot of TV shows like Al Bundy was still really popular on TV, and things like I don't get me wrong, I love him, but at the same and he's great in Modern Family as the grandpa that's really crass and kind of, but at the same time, what I saw was this world that disrespected women, while also seeing that ever since the 60s, they've been having, there's just been rising feminist movement, and I love that. Yeah, fuck yeah, women, take back your power. Take back your power, ladies, because it's time. It's time. But something happened to the men in the world after so many hundreds of years of the patriarchal regime, that when women started to take back their power of being a divine feminine goddess and really taking back their femininity with the feminist movements and all of that equality, which is so great, what that started to do was also shine a really nasty light on toxic masculinity. You started to have divorce, and women were standing up for themselves, and people were saying like, oh, divorce is so bad. Well, is it really? Or did she just leave her abusive husband? So and it was like, you had women standing up for themselves, and you had so many things in our culture in the last 50, 60 years really throwing men under the freaking bus, shining a light on this toxic thing and saying, yeah, it's okay for women to have a voice, and it's not okay for men to be a controlling boyfriend or husband. It's not okay for men to be overly aggressive and domineering. It's not okay for men to be so tough and egotistical that you come across like a freaking douchebag. That's what's not okay. That's what's not okay. And I love the feminist movement for that. As a divine masculine man, I can honestly say that I am a feminist over that, a true feminist, but one that supports women in the highest regard possible, because I respect my women sisters and the women that I work with. Heck yeah, I respect them so much, And that is true feminism. When men can be an ally to feminism the same way that straights are allies to gays, then we will have progress. And that's just kind of my little tirade to bring this all inclusive, because this isn't just about throwing men under the bus. It's about recognizing all the work that women have been doing in the last 50, 60 years to really come back into their growth and give men the permission to do so. And it's about also recognizing the LGBTQ community and saying, I see you, and that, you know, and that coming into your masculinity and your divine masculine and rejecting toxic masculinity doesn't just have to do with boys and men. It has everything to do with women understanding and knowing that it's okay for men to cry, and understanding and knowing that it's okay for their husband to share his feelings with her. And for your boyfriend to cry in front of you is one of the most vulnerable things that he can do for you, because that means he trusts you wholeheartedly. He trusts you. He trusts you enough that he is hoping, by opening up to you, that you will see him when he is saying, I'm a man, and I hope that you still see me as a man even though I'm opening up to you. You know, and this is about understanding that from, you know, coming away from the women for a second, even just from a women to their men perspective, but even from a feminine understanding that embracing the real masculine is knowing that it's not all about men, that she can embrace the masculine in herself and know that it's okay to wear pants, it's okay to wear hats backwards, it's okay to be tough, to drink beers, it's okay to be friends with mostly guys because you don't agree with a lot of women. That's okay too. Women, I see you. There are a lot of those. I've met a lot of those in my life. I've met a lot of women who really resonated with the masculine in their lives, and they had a lot of male friends because they didn't get along with other females. And that's a whole nother topic in itself. I don't even know if I want to get into that, but that's a whole different, I digress. But, you know, it's also about understanding that if you're gay as a man or a gay woman, that you can embrace your masculine and your feminine as a whole without thinking that this particular work is just for men. This work is for everybody, to break the gender role stereotypes. Break the stereotypes so hard that we change the world, all of us together, because that's the only way it's going to change. The only way it's going to change is if we all recognize the problem and we all do something to fix it, because that's the only way that we're going to get anywhere with this. If you look at one specific part of the audience and you say, hey, let's change the world together, and this is a particular issue that the whole world needs to embrace, that'd be like if you had a whole room full of people and you said, hey, let's all prevent littering, and you just looked at the old people. Well, what about the kids? What about the women and the young men and everybody in between? If you looked at the old people, sure, they would listen. They might listen. They might. But we need to hit everybody with these topics that are so ingrained.
In 800 meters, turn left onto Alberta 22.
In our culture. You know, and when things are so embedded in our culture that it affects stereotypes and norms and just our natural inclination to act a certain way, and it affects everybody, not just one person or one cohort or one gender, then it is everybody's responsibility. And So growing up, it wasn't even my parents' fault. It was just simply the culture. It was the culture of the area that I had grown up in, and the things that I had seen on TV, and as a young boy in a redneck province, the things that I thought that were acceptable. And I mean, I know that there was other boys that were gay, and other boys, that other people that do other things. I mean, there are male nurses, and there are male artists and things like that, but I didn't feel like, regardless of my parents' saying all of those things, like oh, you can be who you want to be, and you're supported, and you're loved at home, and giving the general feeling like I came from a good home. Sometimes we don't realize that we're not even an ally until it's the things that we say when we're not even paying attention of the stuff that's coming out when we're on autopilot. And we don't even realize it. But it's things like when you're sitting and watching TV with your kids, and a gay couple comes on, and you're sitting on the couch with your boys, and you say something like, "Oh geez, why do they have to put that stuff on TV?" And so you don't even realize how your kids hear this. You don't. But and it never occurs to you that one of your kids might be gay, or one of them might be bisexual, but it never occurs to you. But I remember the odd time too when growing up, my dad said things like, God, I couldn't imagine if one of you guys were gay. And this was weird for me, because coming into my teenage years as a young boy, as a young teenage adolescent man, and it's only through retrospectively, after years later, after coming out of the closet as an openly bisexual man in my mid-20s, did I realize that I was probably one of the first types of men that I knew at least in my area, that it didn't take girls not wanting to date me or bad luck with women to turn me to the other side. I realized later on that I actually had been very naturally just attracted to both genders my whole life. The only problem was, growing up in Alberta, I didn't think that was even close to normal. And if anybody's familiar with bi-erasure culture, there's a lot of things in even famous people where they like to denounce that people were bisexual because they think that they're just confused, and they think that they're either gay or straight, and they don't know. And so for me, when I started to even look into this, it only made me more confused. And as a man, I didn't even know what to think. I didn't know what to think, and so I held it in. And I was so confused with what that meant, and with these constant messages in social media and different things that tell us that we are supposed to find a girl and find a nice girl and all yada yada, and have some kids, and everything will be hunky-dory, and that's the way your life is supposed to go, and you'll make your parents proud by doing that. And all the while, I hear these other messages too, like boys are supposed to be tough, and boys are supposed to be strong, brawny, and show no fear, and be strong. You can't have any weakness. You can't don't be soft in front of a girl. They don't like that. Don't be sensitive. Don't cry in front of a girl. She'll make fun of you. I had couple of my girlfriends when I was younger, when I was a teenager, make fun of me and laugh and giggle because they had all brothers and they were all really tough brothers, and they didn't know how to take that when I was upset about something and I just showed emotion, because I was always the type of boy that never cared about that. And when I was upset, I was always, I don't know, I'm a Cancer moon. I'm really emotional. It's my nature. I'm into astrology enough to know that. I know my birth chart. I know how that plays into me. But it's, so I don't mind that I'm emotional. I don't care. That's part of who I am. That's part of me. But girls made fun of me, and I thought to myself, this is wrong. This is broken. This is so wrong. I shouldn't be being made fun of by girls for dancing or being one of the only guys in the high school dance class that's enjoying themselves, and so eventually I just masked myself and started acting like all the other boys. But why? Why? The big question was why. I kept asking myself, why? Why do we have this world where some of our boys are made to feel like it's emotional labor to pretend to be a quote-unquote man, to be the stereotype of what a man should be? I didn't understand it. I never did. I still don't. And I'm trying to reshape that every day. And I carried on, and in my early 20s, I had gotten into construction. I got into framing after high school, after wanting to be a firefighter as a kid, and then a dentist, and then a chef. Eventually, now, again, this isn't my parents' fault. This isn't like they failed me or anything. This isn't like that is the childhood trauma exists with me in my shadow. It's not like they failed me because they told me that I had to have a trades job. The point was the culture that made me eventually, coming into high school, feel like by the time I wanted to be a chef all through middle school, and by the time I got into high school, I didn't take any culinary classes at all, and I took all shop classes with the aspirations of eventually becoming a carpenter. And by the time I was through grade 12 and graduated, I was dead set I was going to be a carpenter. And then over the next few years, I bounced around through different trades, and by the time I was 21, I was out of carpentry a little bit, but I had a little girl on the way, and I went into the oil field for a little while so I could save up some extra money, because it's a good paying job. Even if you do a winter of it, you make some good money. And I was gonna save up, just knowing that I had a kid on the way. And that was an interesting experience all in itself, because I exposed myself to the most rotten underbelly of toxic masculinity that exists within not just this province, but this whole culture of it. And I had climbed into the underbelly of some really I worked with some really greasy dudes, and they, it embodied some of the most cliches that I heard when I was younger, that guys are supposed to be players, and they're supposed to be dirtbags, and they're supposed to go and make a lot of money and work away and only be home for a couple days and blow it all in a couple days, and just all of these stupid cliches that I wanted nothing to do with. I wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing. And by the time I got out of the oil field, I didn't want to go back, and that was the first and last time. I got nothing against the guys in the patch that bring us our heat and our power, and the ones that are hustling and working hard. You know, shout out to you boys, because you're doing a great job out there. But the experience just showed me, yet again, it was another experience on my path towards eventually becoming a holistic coach, that I wanted to help people, and instead of just working with my hands or being a personal trainer, which is what I went to school for kinesiology to be. But then once I got out of the patch when I was 21, I had my daughter, and she, again, it was another thing that really slapped me in the face and said, well, I know what kind of man I don't want to be, because I always heard these things that said, like, think about the kind of man that you are, and if you don't like it, and if you're not the kind of man that you would want your daughter to date, then you then change. And those kind of things really stuck with me. They did, because I really resonated with that, because I thought, no way in hell am I being the kind of guy that I wouldn't want my daughter to date. I'm not gonna be a guy that has a girl and is a dirtbag. You know, I had my phase when I was younger. I think a lot of guys do, but I had reached that point where even at only barely 21, I was having a girl, and I thought, nope, okay, that's the buck stops here. And it was very eye-opening for me, especially because her mom and I weren't together anymore. We had broken up, and then I found out she was pregnant. And then so after we decided to co-parent and be friends, and we still are to this day. We're 50-50, and we have her half the time, and I love her. She's the joy and the light of my life. But so this really brought me to a place of knowing that I wanted to raise a girl that had a good dad. I wanted to raise a girl that had a dad that didn't say, "Oh, sorry, honey, I don't want to let you paint my nails. Boys don't do that. Boys don't have tea parties. We can't do that." Or I don't want to watch a musical because I don't like. I love musicals. I saw Sweeney Todd when I was 18 with my brother, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I fell in love with musicals in a very twisted Tim Burton way. And so I don't care about a lot of those things, because to me they're just about enjoying the finer things in life and letting ourselves be human. And that's the message that I wanted to pass on to my own daughter. And to me that was the start of breaking the chain, because if I couldn't impart and pass on the knowledge to my own daughter of what men could be like and could look like, then how are we ever going to have girls and women that support men to be emotional? How are we ever going to have it? We're not. It's not going to happen. And so I knew that was the first place to start. And men can't cry. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. I've cried at every major funeral I've ever been to. I've cried at every wedding for every best friend that I've ever had. I've cried when my daughter graduated from pre-K and went on to kindergarten. cried when I got over my depression and I finally realized I could feel things again. These aren't things to be ashamed of. These are things that make us human. You know, they say that, just like in my other video that I talked about between those archetypes, that if you really strip the archetypes away and pretend that the nouns are just left-brained and right-brained, to describe masculine and feminine as left-brained is logical and rational, and
in 500 meters, turn right onto Bow Valley Trail, Alberta 1A West.
Being a leader, and being left-brained is being a leader, rational, a cool thinker, logical, sciencey, math-related, orientated. And being a right-brain person is being on the more creative-orientated side of things, being emotional, and being just being androgynous, feeling all of it. So these are not, and how often do you really hear somebody say that they're solely right brain? Just because you're a mathematician doesn't mean that you can't dance, so like, pretty sure it's the same way with masculinity and femininity. And it's screw titles. The more we are attached to titles, the more we are resisting the freedom that we could have by just simply being. By just being human. Just stripping away our titles and our notions and our cultures and our pre-conditioned ideas and paradigms of what we're supposed to be like and what we're supposed to be and who we're supposed to be. Just be. That's why this has become my mission. That's why I'm a health coach. That's why I went from going to school that's why I went from going to kinesiology and going into kinesiology so that I could be a personal trainer and a dietitian, and so that I could help people exercise. And along the way, in my last year, I took classes like mindfulness and yoga teacher training, and I got my level 2 Reiki certification at the same time, while I was my level 1 and 2 while I was in college for those other things. And I discovered something even through taking those classes in my last year. I was one of the only men in these classes where we were delving into ourselves, and I suppose it's more innately divine feminine work to be doing things like yoga and mindfulness and Reiki training and going to spiritual empath workshops. But I'm pretty sure if we were living in a matriarchal society, men would be encouraged to do that. Men would be encouraged to just discover themselves for the fullest extent of who they could become. Men would be encouraged. And I just have this intuitive sense that in matriarchal societies of old, if we disrespected women or came across as, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. Anyway, I digress. I discovered that there was something wrong with this whole idea that I was one of the only men that I found myself in these cohorts of females where, in yoga classes and yoga teacher training and Reiki and mindfulness classes, where there was all these women that were showing up and they were ready to embrace their sense of calm and their sense of meditation and their sense of becoming a spiritual healer. And where did I fit in? I fit in right where I knew I needed to be there. I wanted to be there, but I was left wondering why I was one of the only men. Why? I continued to wonder why. And I only knew a few men through my journey, and still know less men that are spiritual and into self-growth and into progressive thinking and really living with a sense of consciousness. I still know more women than men that are truly into progressing who we are. And this is the problem. This is the problem. Right here. That's the issue. Is why men feel like they can't. And it goes deeper. I got out of school and I realized that after months of not being motivated to just make diet plans and fitness plans, I realized it was because I was not motivated to do the simple cliche of being a fitness coach. And that whole paradigm was turning on me. That thing that had been rolling around in my head since I was a little kid, it was coming full circle, and it was shadow work that was coming for me, and life was saying, you gotta face this. You gotta face this, because this is your mission. It's not just to be an exercise coach or just to be a personal trainer in somebody else's gym. It was coming for me, and I didn't know what to do. I got depressed. I didn't know how to put myself out there. I felt like I wanted to be more than just a personal trainer, but I didn't know what that would look like. Meanwhile, I was certified to do Reiki, but I didn't know how to put myself out there in my own community. And I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to give myself permission to even do that. When you consider that there was a lot of older men that I knew that would even ask me, what is Reiki? And I would try to explain to them that it's this universal energy, and it's a way of clearing our stress and our energy, and it's kind of like a massage for the spirit. And some people will believe you, and when you tell them your passion and when you tell them the thing that you're really, really fired up about, and some people won't. And the biggest thing that I learned about that is you need to just push past it, and you can't listen to people that don't understand your dream and your vision, because some people just won't. But I was depressed, and I didn't know how to put myself out there. And I was, the whole time I was fighting fate. I was fighting what I was supposed to be. I was fighting this version of my true self that I've let myself shift into now.
In 600 meters, turn left onto Alberta 133X Morley Road.
Sorry, that's just my GPS. It's about surrender. It's all about surrender. Surrender to the universe. Surrender to your true self. Surrender to the you that you want to be. And say,
take the next left onto Alberta 133X Morley Road.
Say screw all of the stereotypes.
Continue on Alberta 133X for 4 kilometers.
We don't live this life for anybody else. We don't live this life for anybody else. We live it for us. So that's my mission. That's why I strive to be a beacon for men in Alberta, especially to break the stereotypes around masculinity and self-care, and why and to end the epitome that women are the only ones that are found to be self-care coaches and wellness coaches, and that men are so commonly personal trainers or tradesmen and tough. And we don't have to do any of that. We can just be who we want to be. This is why I strive to be a light for men to find their own light in my province especially, and hopefully one day this country. Hopefully one day my message spreads through Canada and farther. But I just really want to create a culture around masculinity that doesn't have to have the word toxic in front of it. You can also read this in an article that I just published and wrote. It'll be on my Facebook page, and I'll upload the link in the details down below. Thanks for watching. I love you. Have a great day.